numbers from 1 to 80 and send to 29588 and you can win up to 30 million shillings every 4 minutes. Deposit, play and win with Mega Dollar. Big game for big winners.
Shoro FM kwa shirikiano na KBC Radio Taifa wanakuletea roadshow babu kubwa ndani ya Kiambu County tarehe 27 na 28. Kikuyu Town, Kwambera, Githongori, Kiambu, Banana, Wangige, hadi Limuru. Jitokeze, uzawadiwe, uburudike na utumbuizwe na wasanii tajika kama Joyce wa Mama, Ngaroya Junior, Smart wa Mam na Gadhiaka Wanjeri. Ni roadshow ya Shoro FM na KBC Radio Taifa kwa udhamini mkubwa wa Kamothe Housing Cooperative Society na Mtiba kutoka Safaricom. Twaweza.
This week on KBC Channel 1.
Helena Haran has gone missing after she suffered an accident.
Life is like the flame of a candle, and just a little wind could snuff it out.
Yani umeamonifanyie hivi?
Mimi, hey, wewe kitu gani mama Keda? Usijifanye mzuri sana. Na najua unipendi.
This is absolutely nonsense.
Important to go to cities or towns in order to look for job opportunities, and through this you find that people tend to be overcrowded in the cities and towns.
How are we supposed to do that while there are so many things that we need to put into consideration?
Within 5 years, various in practice made provide the people counties. When the question of the in the country to the issue on the Senate for the youth to and now 258 account see from or 10 from 80 to 958. You win that play for it.
The of kicked and into that he talked about part of the so a hired pilot that allowed for this being important to not can just war more in area will find you and from of so take had the most control it exactly for a reason in because these will one all easy the team was so Africa with 400 that night of health matters. Of course, law and other political life.
As I said, I want to reach out all leaders so that protect and this country, and that is our people.
Lauding the strides of devolution, President Uhuru Kenyatta offers 50 billion shillings to counties to build their service delivery systems. Torrents of destruction. A number of roads closed as Kenyans are warned to be on the lookout for floods battering the country. And seeking the destruction of the roots, experts called on counties to close taps of terror financiers and their recruiting agents. Welcome back and thank you so much for your company. I am Rose Kuku and our sign language interpreter is Steve Dunde. President Uhuru Kenyatta has urged county administrations to embrace his Big Four development agenda as the country moves to ensure equity for its people. Speaking while he officially opened the ongoing Devolution conference through a live broadcast, the president at the same time announced the launch of the Kenya Devolution Support Program and the Kenya Urban Support Program, which will inject a combined 50 billion shillings into county governments.
With President Uhuru Kenyatta making use of technology to address the delegates from State House Nairobi. The president outlining successes of devolution even as he delved on the prospects, challenges and the future of the concept.
What is important is that we now have 5 years of experience on which to build the next phase of devolved government.
This even as he called for a working pact between county and the national government to spur growth and development. President Kenyatta told governors that his Big Four agenda was meant to benefit every Kenyan, and such county administrators should partner with the national government to ensure that the noble concept actualizes.
But this is perhaps the most ambitious agenda in Kenya's history. But it is equally fair to say that it will remain just that, an agenda, if we do not come together.
Top on his agenda was the universal healthcare that will be piloted in Kisumu, Isiolo, Machakos and Nyeri counties. And even as he pledged unwavering support to counties, the head of state urged county chiefs to play their role towards the realization of universal healthcare.
It is therefore time for us to replace the patchwork coverage we now have with a universal plan that covers every single Kenyan family.
And the ghost of corruption could not escape the president's calling for probity in the use of public resources.
And I ask you, with all humility, to work even more closely with us to maintain fiscal discipline, to keep records accurately, and to use the funds, the resources, and the personnel allocated to you in a manner that will assure Kenyans get maximum benefit.
The Kenya Devolution Support Program and the Kenya Urban Support Program, which will inject a combined 50 billion shillings into county governments to help build and improve the systems that support staff and delivery of services, has also been launched.
That these funds are performance-based, conditional grants that are extended to the county governments by the national government to help you build and improve the systems that support your staff who are willing to work, and to support you in the delivery of services to our people.
The 5th annual Devolution Conference being held at Kakamega High School in Kakamega County will come to a close on Thursday.
At least 30 families from Makueni County will spend the night in the cold after their homes were flattened by a landslide. The incident coming as heavy overnight rains that pounded most parts of the country left in their wake a trail of destruction, even as emergency response teams intensified mitigation efforts. Brenda Zeda Radido reports on the blessings that have turned into tribulations for many families as Mother Nature's wrath continue to take its toll.
Kenyans continue to count losses as heavy rains and flash floods continue to take their toll. From Nairobi County to Taita Taveta, Makueni, Kitui, Isiolo and Kajiado counties, these are the scenes that Kenyans woke up to as they tried to come to terms with the wrath of Mother Nature. In Makueni County, flash floods saw River Muoni burst its banks, leaving hundreds of families in Kilungu homeless after 30 homes were buried by a landslide. In Thika Town, residents woke up to find themselves marooned in their homes after a night-long downpour cut off rains leading to almost all the major estates. Desperate residents of Section 9, Kiganjo, Landless, Umoja, Makongeni and Corner 3 estates are counting losses after torrent waters found their way into their houses. Along the busy Kenyatta Highway, Thika National Bank, Guardian Bank and Gertrude Hospital were cut off, with businesses and offices remaining closed for the better part of the day. Border riders were making a kill to transport motorists from one side of the road to the other, charging 50 shillings for a distance of 5 meters.
Sisi watu wa motorbike tunafurahia sababu tukikubebea hapa kukuvukisha hapa ni 50 na kurudi 50. Sasa tunafurahia sana, hata tunaweza uliza mvua iendelee na kunyesha sababu tuketu kameiva.
In Taita Taveta County, at least 474 households have been affected and are in their need of humanitarian assistance center.
Sasa hivi Mbogono yote ni kama iko kwenye island ya kwamba mawasiliano hakuna, hatuwezi toka kwa kutumia gari, hata miguu. Sasa unaona sasa hali ambayo inabidi tutumie labda ni miguu kuweza kufika kupata idha kama ni huduma hapo mjini ama ya kiafya ama hata sasa kwa ajili ya kutafuta chakula, kwa sababu hata vyakula vyote vimeenda na maji.
In Isiolo County, several families in Garemara ward have been displaced by floods amid fears of an outbreak of waterborne diseases.
Public health wala hospitali yetu ya Isiolo wajakuja kuletea watu madawa. Kuna watu ambaye wamehamishwa na maji, wanakaa usiku mpaka asubuhi. Hakuna maneti, hakuna chakula, hakuna nini, kila kitu yote hawana.
Jana maji ilikuja usiku saa 7:30. Sisi bado lala hata na watoto wetu sisi yote. Sisi naamuka tu usiku nakuta kile area najaa, hakuna pahali ya kukanyanga, kuku umeenda, watoto ambusi, hakuna kitu tulibakicha hata chakula.
Motorists plying the Narok-Maimahiu road were also left stranded after a section of the road was once again cut off by floods. The Kenya Highway Authority is advising motorists to instead use Naivasha-Nakuru Road. The Kenya National Highway Authority issuing an alert on motorists using the Kibwezi Mutomo Kitui Road after a section of the road at Athi River Bridge, 20 kilometers from Kibwezi town, was submerged by flood waters. Motorists have been advised to take caution until the water levels subside. Brenda Zeda Radido, Channel 1 News.
Members of Parliament are now piling pressure on the government to declare cancer a national disaster. The legislators who were eulogizing the late Baringo South Member of Parliament, Grace Kipchoim, who succumbed to cancer last week, said the nation should pay great attention to deadly diseases. The late Member of Parliament will be laid to rest on 5th of May in Baringo County.
In less than a year, 2 members of parliament have succumbed to cancer. Baringo South legislator Grace Kipchoim and former Kitui West MP Francis Nyenze losing their battle to the disease only 4 months apart.
I lost my dear husband in December due to cancer. And actually they end the same type of cancer, that is colon cancer.
On Tuesday, glowing tribute was paid to the late Baringo South MP
who won her second term in parliament from an hospital bed.
Grace was very passionate, especially in insurrections and in fighting for the rights of women and children who are the most affected during insecurity times or during times of armed conflict, which she often had to really fight for in her constituency in Baringo South.
Despite her being sick towards the end of 11th Parliament, Mr. Speaker, she was always in this house trying her best to serve Kenyans.
Kipchoge's demise comes barely a week after Parliament adopted a motion seeking to have cancer declared a national disaster.
I think as a House, the 12th Parliament, we should go in books to actually make sure that this materializes so that we save our people.
And as family and friends prepare to bid farewell to Grace Kipchoge on 5th May, MPs are piling pressure on the government to declare the disease a national disaster to enable channeling of resources for preventive purposes. For Channel 1 News, I am Edward Kabasa.
Well, welcome back. And of course, that story once again also touches on an important topic that we are covering tonight, and this is health. And in studio, I told you we have an expert. She's from the Ministry of Health and heads the Malaria Control Unit. This is Dr. Rebecca Kiptui, who will be helping us understand better how exactly have we performed as a country in eradicating the tropical disease. This is malaria. And maybe just exactly how much more do we need to do? And of course, as Kenya joins the world tomorrow in commemorating or marking this day, this is World Malaria Day, these are the things that we need to do. And of course, at the same time, the theme for this year is ready to beat malaria. Are you ready to beat malaria? And of course, remember, just recently, Kenya did participate in the London Forum, and they did pledge to really work hard in eradicating this disease by 2030. And of course, we've also seen the head of state, President Uhuru Kenyatta, seeking international intervention, the recent most being from Cuba, where currently the cabinet secretary held already has managed to sort of have a sit down and see how they can assist us. And so far, 2 medical experts, or rather practitioners, will be sent out to various counties, or rather all counties in the country. So much has been done, but just exactly what is the picture? We'll get all these details from the expert. Well, let's proceed now. Security experts now want to focus on fighting terrorism to shift on the counties so that the taps of funding, recruitment, and the exploitation done by terror cells is brought to a halt. Delegates attending the International Conference on Terrorism and Violent Extremism in Nairobi say denying terror gangs avenues of funding and recruitment would be a big blow to their capabilities to carry out attacks and have viable command structures. Roncliffe Odit attended the opening session of the conference and filed the following report.
Terrorism remains the #1 security threat in Africa and the globe at large. In Kenya, the Westgate Mall attack and the attack on Garissa University that left over 148 students dead remain the latest in a series of attacks carried by the Somali ragtag Al-Shabaab. But on Tuesday morning, authors, scholars, representatives of governments and security experts were meeting in Nairobi to delve into the best way possible to handle the challenges posed by terrorism. And the head of AMISOM in Somalia, Ambassador Francisco Madeira, says the war on terror will soon be won, but the focus should be on 2 areas, the recruitment and the funding of the terror gangs.
We will defeat terrorists if we can effectively attack it at the stage of accessing funds, weapons, information, targets, and other logistics, stopping terrorists at stage 1 and stage 2, the stage of preparation, the stage of recruitment and planning.
Participants in the forum agree that terrorism has been more dynamic with new strategies in place. However, sympathizers and collaborators have been blamed largely for playing a key role in supporting the militias.
These people who manage to live in our midst, people who manage to survive and buy shops, stay in the West Gate and do what they did? How?
Religion has played a key role in promoting the violent extremism in most cases. But scholars say the main cause of an upsurge in the cases of extremists is a case of people who are fighting for identity and opposed to the constitutional order and diverse nature of Kenyans.
There is a tendency as well for extreme forms of bonding with that identity, where individuals feel not only that they belong to that identity, but feel they have a special duty or a special injury or a special place in driving forward or defending that identity from those who they perceive to be its enemies.
The 3 days conference will come up with policy framework to address the changing dynamics of terrorism and violent extremisms in Africa, as well as report to government representatives the best working formula from around the globe. Reporting for Channel 1 News Hour, I'm Ron Cliff. OD.
Over 53 ministers of education from African countries are expected to converge in Nairobi from Wednesday to Friday for the Pan-African Conference on Education. These even as education stakeholders and civil societies in the country called on the national government to ensure that every child has access to inclusive, equitable and quality education through the already implemented free public primary and secondary education.
Education stakeholders and civil societies in the country are now calling on the government to do more so as to improve access to basic education in the country. Speaking during an engagement forum with key policymakers ahead of the Global Action Week for Education, Nairobi County Chief Executive for Education, Janet Ouko, said education stakeholders have a duty to uphold the Constitution and ensure every child has access to basic education.
Let us make sure that every child is in school. It does not matter those frameworks. I don't know a perimeter wall. I don't know a school that looks like what. No, it does not matter. Why are we restraining ourselves? We must get 7-10 million to build this wonderful class. Why? It is not important. What a child needs is an opportunity to go to school and a teacher to teach her.
David Baheta, the Chief of Education at UNICEF, added that the civil society needs to play a critical role in highlighting issues affecting the education sector.
The role of civil society is very critical, but it's not just shouting. I think civil society needs to be accountable itself, because it cannot spend a lot of money on itself and then pretend to help the child. No, we need to be accountable to the community as well.
To celebrate Global Action Week for Education, stakeholders will over the next 3 days deliberate on accomplishments and challenges facing the sector in the African continent. Like many other states, Kenya has committed to fully implement the 4th Sustainable Development Goal Agenda, which underscores the importance of inclusive, equitable and quality education. For Channel 1 News Hour, I'm Emily K. Bade.
Well, it's now 5:30. We take a very fast break, but do not go too far. Remember, there's so much lined up for you. And of course, after this break, we'll be featuring your health, or rather focusing on your health. And remember, tonight we highlight on malaria. How exactly has it affected the country? Has it affected the economy? Has it also affected families and the like? These are some of the things that we seek to understand. So do you have any feedback pertaining to this topic? Kindly do share with us on our social media platforms. On Twitter at KBC Channel 1, tweet me directly at Rose_Gaku. And our SMS line is right on your screens, 22162. As well on Facebook, KBC Channel 1. That break now.
Infrastructural development is a landmark in the 5 years of devolution. Tarmac roads, new buildings and modern bridges built through the county governments has changed the lives of citizens. Join the conversation on the 5th Devolution Conference in Kakamega County from 23rd to 27th of April as they share on the theme Sustainable, productive and effective governments for results delivery.
Hii kwenye Mkulima tutaangazia mengi kuhusu broccoli na pia tujifunze kutengeza yogurt.
A small part. I don't like it.
Changamoto katika kazi yoyote ile, haswa biashara changa, huwa haikosi. Vijana hao wamepitia changamoto tele, lakini hawajakata tamaa.
Ungana nami Frederick Mbadha Jumapili saa 9:30 nikupe uondo kamili.
Welcome back, and of course now we bring you our story all the way from Cuba, and this is pretty much pertaining to the efforts by the government in providing universal health care. Remember, the head of state was in Cuba a few weeks past, and there was interventions done where contingent from the country will be coming into this country to offer their expertise, as well as those from this country taken to that country to learn more about how they could handle especially tropical diseases. Now, our reporter John Jacob Curie, currently in the country, felt the following report.
We are in Cuba, where Kenya is among the participants participating in the health conference that is being the international health conference that is being organized here in Cuba, and Cabinet Secretary Ministry of Health Cecily Kariuki is a participant. But also this tour is largely seen as one for benchmarking. Remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta was in Cuba in the month of March for a state visit, and remember that exchange program where Kenya signed a deal where 100 doctors would be deployed to Kenya to provide specialist services. But on the issues of benchmarking, the aspect of affordability of healthcare in Cuba coming into sharp focus. And when you compare it to our Kenyan healthcare system, because affordable healthcare in Cuba involves each Cuban going for compulsory medical checkup monthly, and that checkup is paid for by government. Here, the government allows you to go for a compulsory checkup that is fully paid up for by government, and 27% of Cuba's budget are really going towards healthcare and to ensure that its citizens are comfortable. And because of the excellence they have had as a country in terms of medical care, 11% of their GDP comes from, medical tourism, or people coming into Cuba to seek medical treatment. Now, this a country has devolved its systems of health, and there are several cadres of healthcare in this country, one of them being from the Minister of Health, the Director Provincial, as well as Director Municipal, and that is the polyclinic level, what they are calling polyclinical, as well as the area of salud or area of health, and the lowest level being the family doctors. And this was a concept that was developed in 1994, where family doctors and nurses would visit, residents of a particular area and be able able to, the focus being preventive care as well as, promotion of healthcare as opposed, to curative care.
As a country, it is important we reorient our approach in health service delivery in terms of going to the basics. And the basics here have to do with promotive, preventive approach that Cuba is credited of perhaps having the best model, and that is why we are here.
But you will realize that polyclinics, or this idea of polyclinics in Cuba, is what is equivalent to a hospital being in a ward in Kenya. Now, polyclinics serve about 39,000 people, and we're taking a case in point, Bedado, where the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Cicely Kariuki, visited today with the Kenyan delegation, as well as members of parliament, both for the Senate as well as the National Assembly, and the focus being on this polyclinics and how they deliver their services. Bedado Polyclinic focuses on 39,000 patients. For that matter, there has been no child mortality reported in the last 2 years, and the accidents wing, reading 0. But then again, like I said, the promotion being, or rather the focus being on promotion as well as prevention, cure and rehabilitation.
Indeed, as my colleagues would be able to say, it is not as complicated as perhaps it is made to look. It is something that is simple if we apply our effort to it, and if there is a political will which is already exhibited by the president, but also the leaders, the political leaders in Kenya.
But also the fact that these polyclinics have the capacity to investigate a breakout. For example, when we hear there's a cholera in Kayole or whatever it is, these polyclinics have, and the capacity to investigate a breakout and be able to promote, or rather be able to propose solutions for the area. But also the fact that at the same time they are serving as training stations or training institutions where doctors can also come and train, as well as medical students can come and train. But again, in terms of affordability, you will realize that the government has injected so money into subsidizing the cost of drugs, at least by what we have been told. And for that matter, you realize that once you go to a chemist, you buy the drugs, but then at a subsidized cost. But when you go to a public institution or a public hospital, you pay nothing for the drugs that you get. And the ratio of doctors being one doctor to 200 patients. In Kenya, it's one doctor, 600 patients in a referral hospital. Here at a polyclinic, at the lowest level is one doctor to 1,200 people, which it means that one doctor is able to reach out to so many others. And the doctor that we're talking about, a family doctor, is actually situated around this area or the ward, and their house is actually in that particular ward. That means they're able to make rounds around every household in that particular area, if it is a ward for that matter, but also that they are available for consultation once the patients or once a person deems themselves ill. But of course, we'll continue monitoring the situation here and be able to compare and comparatively bring you the situation of healthcare in Cuba as well as in Kenya, as the Cabinet Secretary continues to benchmark here, and as we await the arrival of a specialist, these doctors that are supposed to come to Kenya, obviously to offer specialist services. But for now, back to you, Nairobi.
Well, thank you so much, John Jacob Curran. Of course, he ushers in a very topical issue tonight for us. And of course, remember, we also know that there's certain interventions that have been done to ensure that we eradicate the disease, even as we also await that kind of intervention from the international states. And without further ado, I introduce to you Dr. Rebecca Kiptoo, who is part of the leading team in the malaria control unit in the country. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much. And of course, Kenya will be joining the world to mark the World Malaria Day. But let's just talk about in the country, who is most affected by malaria?
The people who are most affected by malaria are the pregnant women and the children who are under 5 years of age. And this is because the status of the immune system is still a bit, it's quite low. So they're very, very susceptible to malaria. The other people who are also quite, or where we have a very high burden of disease is around the lake, because there are a lot of water bodies there, and that is where the female Anopheles mosquito, that is which we call the vector, is the one which transmits the disease to those people who are living around that place. So mostly in the lake and also around the coastal areas. And you know those places are also quite hot, so it's very, very conducive for that mosquito to breed there.
All right. So generally, are you saying these kind of regions are also the epidemic zones?
They're not the epidemic zones. Those regions around the lake, that is former Western and Nyanza province, and the coast, we call them endemic areas because transmission occurs throughout the whole year. The epidemic places are the places where you can have, usually you don't have much of a disease burden, but then after the long rains and after the short rains, that is now when the disease can actually come up and evolve into an epidemic. And those people who live there do not have any immunity against malaria. So malaria can actually result into death for those people. The people who are living in the lake, around the lake and around the coast have some immunity. Therefore, at least it will not be as serious, but they can have several bouts of malaria.
All right.
Yeah.
So how does the rate of, the disease, how is the disease in the country so far?
So far, we have the prevalence in the whole of Kenya currently is at 8%. Now, in the regions around the lake, currently is at 27%. At the coast, is at 8%. In the epidemic zone, which is the Western Highlands of Kenya, the prevalence there is at 3%. And then when you go to the arid places in Kenya, Turkana, most of former northeastern province and upper eastern, there the prevalence is 1%. And then around the central highlands, Nairobi and Nakuru County included, it is less than 1% prevalence.
Right. Now, you're talking about the percentages passing. Of course,
Yes.
you've cited the prevalence rate at 8%. In numbers, in figures per se, what numbers are we looking at countrywide?
Well, if you look at numbers, I can say that per month usually, we see around 1 million people who we suspect to have malaria. So we actually they actually go for testing, and we have realized that actually the figures are actually less than 1 million. They have actually gone down. Long time ago, we'd expect around 12 million or 14 to 12 million cases of malaria, but right now it has actually gone down.
All right.
Yeah.
And probably, what are some of the measures that the government and other stakeholders have injected to ensure that this is addressed?
Now, what we have done, one, we have made investments. And because the transmission in the country is not the same, you can even hear from the percentages, it is not the same. We have actually strategically positioned particular interventions in particular places in this country. For example, in the places which are endemic, where transmission is across the whole year, we have made sure that the nets are there. So those people get nets. For each and every household, we want to make sure that every second person has a net. So at least one net for 2 people in those particular areas. We have also made sure that they have indoor residual spraying. Like, for example, this year, we managed to do indoor residual spraying, that is spraying the walls with an insecticide so that when the mosquito rests on it, it dies. We have done that in Migori County and Homa Bay County, and we hope to do that in Kisumu County, hopefully, next year. The other thing that we have also done is provision of something we call intermittent preventive treatment for pregnant women. So that when they go to the antenatal clinic, they get this particular medicine to help in the prevention of malaria in pregnancy. We also give the pregnant woman a net, and also a child under 1 year of age, when they come for immunization, we also give them a net. The same package we have also in the epidemic-prone area, but in the epidemic-prone area, we also do something called epidemic preparedness and response, where we monitor and see, and when we see that the data tells us that there's about to be an outbreak, that is now when we start investigating and give backup to the counties to successfully respond to that epidemic, either to stop it from developing or to help if it's a fully evolved epidemic, we help them with any backup that they may need.
All
we
right.
also do advocacy and communication, and we also do capacity building of malaria control coordinators who are in each and every county in this country. So
right.
that's what we have been doing together with our partners. Yes.
Okay, right. And of course, you did mention as part of the preventative measures that you've taken is about expectant mothers. And so many times we see campaigns, especially to the expectant mothers and, you know, a call for children and all these measures. Do you think it's been taken up seriously as it should be?
Let me talk about the Wananchi. One thing about the pregnant women, they don't come to the antenatal clinic as soon as they get pregnant. In fact, if anything, they're supposed to go and do pregnancy planning before they actually get pregnant. So they might go to most of them go to the clinic when they're also just about to deliver. So they miss out on many other health benefits that we have for them at the antenatal clinic. For example, the preventive medicine that we give the mothers, they're supposed to get at least a minimum of 3 doses. So when they come very late in their pregnancy, they might only get 1 dose. So it would be nice for them to enjoy the whole package that we have for them at the antenatal clinic. For immunization, I think that one is going much better. At least the children are being brought to the immunization clinics.
All right. And still, when you're talking about immunization and related topics,
yes.
Kenya has been lucky to be part of a vaccine to be launched soon. Tell us more about it.
I'll say Kenya is blessed. Well, so we are planning to launch the pilot of this vaccine towards the end of this year. And I would like to congratulate Kenya for making this. We were chosen out of 10 countries who actually applied to have that pilot run in their country. And because of our coverage of interventions and because we had a strong immunization and a strong malaria control program, we managed to be part of that. So later in the year, we will launch that. It will happen in the place with the highest disease burden, which is around the lake area, which we call the lake endemic areas. And will be available for children from around 6 months up to 2 years of age.
So ideally, it's just for that age bracket, 6 months to 2 years.
Yes.
And ideally, how does it work? Is it a one-time of vaccine?
No, we have 4 doses. Actually, there will be 4. There will be 4 doses that will be given to those children. We'll start at the age of 6 months. Then there will be another dose at 7 months, and then another dose at 9 months, and then there will be a final dose just around 2 years of age. So we hope that will also encourage mothers or caregivers to bring the children to the clinic even up to 2 years. You know, apart from just doing immunization, we also do growth monitoring and assess the nutrition of the child. So,
all right. Yeah. So if this is a success, all these children who go through this process will be, you know, protected.
Yes, they'll be protected from the trials that we had before the phase 3 trials. The results did say and did show that 4 out of 4 in 10 of children who received that particular vaccine were prevented from having malaria, and then around 30% of those ones who received the vaccine did not have severe malaria. Right. So we hope that that will really help. But one advice, though, is even though they get the vaccine, they have to continue using the other preventive measures for malaria. So they still have to sleep under a net. And for those counties which are being sprayed, the residual spraying, the householders should still allow the spray to continue. So it's just one of the tools of the preventive measures that we are currently giving. So we hope that it shall, what can I say, increase the success of all the preventive tools that we have.
All right, and of course, featuring prominently today during the Devolution conference is the issue of universal healthcare. And there is a pilot project to be launched in about 4 counties. And I think this is part of a bigger picture, you know, of the Big 4 agenda, right? And as part of the team in the malaria control unit, do you think we can eradicate malaria soonest in the country?
We hope so. The global target is by 2030, and as a malaria program, our vision is a malaria a malaria-free Kenya. So if you look at the universal health coverage, we are thinking of, there are three things that we think of when we talk about universal health coverage. One is accessibility. Are these things accessible? For example, from the malaria control program, in the lake endemic region where the highest disease burden is, we have even been training community health workers who go around the household. They're able to test and they're able to treat uncomplicated malaria for those people. So it's come closer to the people so that that service is accessible. The other thing that you have to think about when you look at universal healthcare is the issue about affordability. Currently, all medicines, malaria medicines, are free in the public, in the public health systems. The nets that we do distribute in the public health system, that is for pregnant women and for children under 1 year of age, and the nets that we distribute through mass campaigns are also free. In the private sector, we have also subsidized malaria medicines. So the medicines that you buy there actually are subsidized at cost. Long time ago, a dose of malaria would be like 800 shillings. It has come crashing down. It's around 100 shillings. So it's more it's more affordable for the people. The third thing that you have to think about is the issue of quality, the issue of quality commodities. So the things that we do buy, the medicines that we buy, and the nets that we buy, they are of good quality. They work. So looking at universal healthcare, as we go that way, I think we should be able to succeed. And also, of course, with the addition of new tools, the vaccine being one of them.
All right then.
Yeah.
And of course now, even as we begin to wind up in the interest of time, we do expect, especially the Cuban doctors who will be, sent to assist. Has the medical practitioners here identified maybe one or some of the major challenges, that prevent Kenya to be malaria-free? What are those challenges?
Some of the challenges are this. One is the issue about insecticide resistance. So we have been using this net for many, many years. It's not a new development. So we always have to keep on finding out, are they still working? Where is their resistance? Currently, at least the ones that we're using, the measures that we have put in place, we have made sure that the class of insecticide that we are putting on the wall is different from the one of the nets, so that there's not much insecticide resistance. We've also come up with a strategy which says, with the insecticide that we are spraying on the walls, make sure that we are going to be changing them every 2 years. The other thing that we are monitoring very closely is also the drug resistance or medicine resistance, but we can happily report that up to now they are working. The other challenge is for the new tools or new insecticides or new medicines, the research takes a very, very long time. Even just like the vaccine, it took a very, very long time for them to come by. That is another challenge. And then, of course, as usual, the other challenge is also the issue of resource, the resources that we may need.
Okay, right then. And we thank you so much for availing yourself and, of course, sharing all that with Kenyans. And I understand that this year is ready to beat malaria.
Yes.
Do you feel we're ready to beat malaria?
Yes. Mimi nimejitolea.
All right then.
Kupambana na malaria. That's our local slogan here.
Mimi nimejitolea kupambana na malaria.
Yes.
Je wewe.
Yes.
Literally, that is how we end it.
Yes.
All right then. We also end the interview right on that spot. And Caroline Drenga is up next with business news.
Nilikuwa nina watch show, alafu kuna ile namba special 10 zilipeanwa pale, alafu baadaye nikatangazwa kuwa mimi ndio mshindi. Naso labda mtaani niko na kioski yangu pale yenye nimeshinda, nda boost ile kioski yangu iko kubwa kidogo, na wasi mcheze miaka dola ni ya ukweli.
Nawe pia cheza ushinde leo. Top up kwa paybill number 295888 uanzie sasa.
Shoro FM kwa ushirikiano na KBC Radio Taifa wanakuletea Roadshow babu kubwa ndani ya Kiambu County tarehe 27 na 28 mwezi huu wa 4. Kutana na watangazaji wako wapendao wa Shoro FM: Nyox, Mwanamwede, Martin Kamade, Jose Bunjenga, KK na wengine wengi, pamoja na watangazaji wako wa Radio Taifa: George Swaka, Boni Musambi, Junior Dread na wengine wengi. Ijumaa tarehe 27 tutazuru Githurai, Juja, Kenyatta Road, Gatondo, Igegania na Theka Theka. Nayo Jumamosi tarehe 28 mwezi wa 4 tutazuru Kikuyu Town, Kwambera, Githongori, Kiambu, Banana, Wangige hadi Limuru. Jitokeze uzawa